Commander Jack Morrison stood in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, looking at the faces of 100 different species. The chamber was massive, built to hold representatives from 850 worlds. Crystal pillars reached toward a dome that showed the stars beyond. He had walked through these halls for 10 years now, believing humanity had finally found its place among the stars. Today was supposed to be a celebration. 10 years since humanity joined the Council. 10 years of peace and cooperation. The humans had shared their medical advances freely. Their technology had saved billions of lives across dozens of worlds. They had asked for nothing in return except friendship and a chance to learn from older civilizations. Ambassador Lisa Hayes stood beside Jack, her face calm but her eyes sharp. She had been with the diplomatic corps longer than anyone else. She had shaken hands with beings that had 3 arms, negotiated with species that communicated through color changes, and learned to drink the awful ceremonial beverages of at least 40 different cultures. If anyone understood galactic politics, it was Lisa. Council Prime Vex Thor called the session to order. He was a Zentari, tall and thin with skin that shimmered like oil on water. His species had led the council for 3 centuries. Jack had always found him difficult to read, but he assumed that was just cultural difference. "We gathered today on a matter of great importance," Vex Thor said, his voice carrying across the chamber through translation devices. "The Kresh have invaded the outer territories. 3 worlds have fallen. They moved toward council space with a fleet of warships." Murmurs filled the chamber. The Kresh were known as aggressive and territorial. Humanity had never encountered them, but the reports were concerning. Jack leaned forward, ready to offer help. "The council must respond with strength," War Minister Krell announced, standing from his seat. He was Dravian, built like a tank with gray armored skin and eyes like black stones. "We need every available ship to defend our worlds." Jack didn't hesitate. He activated his communication panel and spoke clearly. "Earth offers its full support. We can have our fleet here within 3 days. We stand ready to defend Council worlds." There was a moment of silence. Then Vex Thor did something strange. He smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "How generous of the humans," Vex Thor said slowly. "Always so eager to help, so trusting, so naive." Jack felt Lisa tense beside him. Something was wrong. "I call for a vote," Vex Thor continued. "The matter before the Council is the expulsion of humanity and the seizure of all human assets in Council space." The words hit Jack like a physical blow. Around the chamber, holographic displays appeared showing the vote in progress. Species after species cast their vote. The numbers climbed rapidly. 847 votes in favor, only 3 against. "What is this?" Lisa demanded, her voice cutting through the shocked silence from the small human delegation. "We've done nothing wrong. We've been loyal allies." "Loyal tools, perhaps," Krell said, standing and walking toward the human section. "You served your purpose well. Your medical technology will save our people for generations. Your agricultural methods will feed our colonies. Your manufacturing processes will strengthen our economy." "You used us," Jack said quietly, the pieces falling into place. "From the beginning." "Of course we did," Vex Thor replied without shame. "Did you truly believe we saw you as equals? Your children playing at civilization. Your species barely left your own star system before we found you. We needed your unique biology, your strange way of solving problems. Now we have what we need." "The Kresh invasion?" Lisa asked. "There is no invasion," Krell said with what might have been amusement. "We needed to know if you would commit your forces away from your homeworld. You failed the test spectacularly. Your entire fleet was ready to rush here within days, leaving Earth vulnerable. That tells us everything we need to know about human strategic thinking." Around the chamber, council ships were moving into position outside. Jack could see them on the displays. Human vessels were surrounded, trapped, in a carefully planned ambush. All human outposts in Council space are now under our control, Vexthor announced. Your people there will be detained. Your ships will surrender their weapons. You have shared much with us, but I suspect you kept some secrets. We will find them. This is how you treat those who helped you, Jack asked, his voice steady despite the anger building inside him. We saved billions of your people. We asked for nothing. That was your mistake, Vexthor said. In galactic politics, everything has a price. You gave freely, which made you weak. The Council respects strength, not charity. Lisa touched Jack's arm, a warning. Don't lose control. Don't give them satisfaction. You have 1 hour to board your shuttle and leave Council space, Krell said. Your detained personnel will be released when Earth agrees to our terms. We will send our demands shortly. Jack looked at Lisa. She gave a tiny nod. They had discussed this possibility once, years ago, during their first days with the Council. She had warned him that not every species valued the same things humanity did. He had been optimistic. He had been wrong. He stood slowly and straightened his uniform. He looked directly at Vexthor, his expression calm. You have made a grave mistake, Jack said quietly. Vexthor laughed. Several other Council members joined in. The sound echoed through the great chamber. Is that a threat? Vexthor asked. From the species that came to us in peace? The ones who shared everything freely? The ones who never raised a weapon against another species? Please, enlighten me. What mistake have we made? Jack didn't answer. He turned and walked toward the exit with Lisa beside him. The small human delegation followed, their heads high despite the humiliation. As they left, Krell called after them. Tell your leaders to be reasonable, comply with our terms, and your people will be released unharmed. Resist, and we will take what we want by force. Humanity cannot stand against the Council. The doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. In the shuttle, Lisa finally spoke. They don't know. No, Jack agreed, strapping into his seat. They have no idea. Should we tell them? Jack thought about that as the shuttle pulled away from the station. Through the window, he could see Council ships surrounding human vessels, demanding surrender. He thought about the 10 years of cooperation, of sharing and trust. He thought about the human prisoners being held across Council space. No, he said finally. Let them find out the hard way. Contact Earth. Tell Admiral Davis the Council has declared themselves our enemy. And the prisoners? We'll get them back, Jack said, his voice hard. All of them. The Council thinks we're weak because we chose peace. They're about to learn the difference between can't and won't. The shuttle jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving the Council station behind. Behind them, humanity's former allies celebrated their victory. None of them noticed the small, nearly invisible probes that had been attached to their ships. None of them detected the surveillance drones positioning themselves around every Council military base. The Council had made their choice. Now, humanity would make theirs. The news reached Earth 6 hours after the vote. Admiral Kyle Davis sat in the command center deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, watching the transmission from Ambassador Hayes. Her face filled the screen, tired but composed. They played us from the start, she said. Everything we shared, every technology we gave freely, it was all part of their plan. They never saw us as partners. We were a resource to be exploited and discarded. Kyle had been expecting something like this for years, though he had hoped he was wrong. He was a military man, trained to prepare for worst-case scenarios. When humanity made first contact with the Galactic Council 15 years ago, he had argued for caution. Show them a peaceful face, yes, but keep the weapons ready, just in case. The politicians had overruled him. They wanted to present humanity as peace-loving explorers, eager to join the galactic community. Kyle had gone along with it, but he had never stopped preparing. How many personnel do we have in council space? He asked. Approximately 8,000, Lisa replied from the screen. Scientists, diplomats, families, traders, they're all being rounded up and detained. The council claims they'll be released if Earth agrees to their terms. What terms? They haven't sent them yet, but based on what Vexthor said, they want access to everything. Our military databases, our manufacturing centers, our research facilities. Complete submission. Kyle nodded slowly. And our ships? Surrounded. The council demanded they surrender. Captain Wells refused, but he's outnumbered 30-1. He's waiting for orders. Captain Brandon Wells commanded the EDF Valiant, humanity's flagship in council space. He was young but smart, the kind of officer who didn't panic under pressure. Tell Wells to stand down, Kyle said. Surrender the weapons systems, but nothing else. I want those crews alive. Admiral, if we surrender... We're not surrendering, Kyle interrupted. We're being patient. There's a difference. He ended the transmission and turned to Dr. Emma Parker, who had been standing quietly in the corner. She was the head of the Strategic Defense Initiative, the project that had consumed humanity's best scientific minds for the past 12 years. Is it time? She asked. Contact the president, Kyle said. Tell her I'm requesting authorization to activate Silent Thunder. Emma's eyes widened slightly, but she nodded and left the room. Kyle turned back to the displays showing Earth's orbital defenses, the hidden weapons platforms, the ships that had never been shown to the Council. An hour later, the president appeared on his screen. She looked older than she had that morning. They really did it, she said. I kept hoping your paranoia was misplaced. So did I, Madam President. The Council thinks we're helpless. They've already started broadcasting propaganda about containing the human threat, about maintaining order in the galaxy. Half their member species are celebrating. And the other half? 3 species voted against the expulsion. The Varani, the Sulkai, and the Torth. They're reaching out through back channels, apologizing for what happened. They say they tried to stop it. Note their names, Kyle said. We'll remember who stood with us. The president was quiet for a moment. Kyle, if we do this, everything changes. We can't go back to how things were. They made that choice for us. I know. I'm authorizing Silent Thunder. Show them what we're really capable of. But Kyle, I want our people back alive. All of them. Yes, ma'am. The authorization codes came through minutes later. Kyle entered them into the system and watched as everything came online. Across Earth's solar system, satellites that had been disguised as scientific instruments began powering up. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields activated their engines. Ground-based facilities opened doors that hadn't moved in years. Get me Captain Nicole Grant, Kyle ordered. Nicole Grant appeared on screen quickly. She was wearing combat gear, her face paint making her features hard to read. Behind her, Kyle could see other soldiers preparing equipment. Admiral, she said simply, how many teams do you have in position? 16. We're embedded on 12 council worlds and 4 military installations. We've been there for 8 years, waiting. Kyle had to admire the patience that took. 8 years living undercover among aliens, ready to act at a moment's notice. The council has taken hostages, Kyle said. I need you to remind them that we can reach anywhere we want, whenever we want. Understood. What level of response? Demonstration only. No casualties. I want them scared, not angry. We can handle that. Nicole disappeared from the screen. Kyle knew she would do her job perfectly. Her teams had trained for this exact scenario. He turned to his tactical officers. Compose a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them they have 72 hours to remove all forces from former human territories and release our people. Send it on all frequencies. Sir, they'll never agree to that. I know. The message was sent. Kyle waited, watching the displays. Across human space, ships were moving into position. Not the ships the Council had seen. These were different, faster, better armed. Equipped with technology that humanity had developed in secret while they smiled and shared medical advances. The Council's response came within an hour. Vexthor appeared on screen, his expression smug. The humans issue demands. How amusing. You have no leverage, Admiral Davis. Your ships are surrounded. Your people are our prisoners. If you attempt any action, they will suffer the consequences. Kyle didn't respond. He simply closed the channel. 6 hours later, 3 Council military bases went dark simultaneously. For exactly 60 seconds, every system shut down. Life support, communications, weapons, sensors, everything. Then, just as suddenly, power returned. Nothing was damaged, no one was hurt, but the message was clear. We can reach you. Kyle sent another message. 48 hours remaining. This time, Vexthor didn't respond immediately. Kyle could imagine the panic spreading through the Council. They would be checking their systems, trying to figure out how humanity had done it. They would find nothing. The intrusion had left no trace. War Minister Krell finally replied, "Empty threats will not save you. The Council will not be intimidated by primitive tricks." Kyle almost smiled. They still didn't understand. "Get me Captain Wells," he said. Brandon appeared on screen, looking tired. Behind him, Kyle could see the interior of the Valiant, surrounded by Council ships. "How are you holding up, Captain?" "We're alive, sir. The Council has been sending boarding parties, but we've been stalling, claiming technical difficulties with the docking systems. How much longer can you delay?" "Maybe another day. After that, they'll probably just cut their way in." "Hold them off as long as you can. Help is coming." "Sir, with respect, we're outnumbered 30-1. How?" "Trust me, Captain. The Council doesn't know what they're dealing with." Kyle ended the call and pulled up a tactical map. Council forces were gathering at human borders, probably planning to intimidate Earth into submission. They had positioned their largest fleet in the solar system's outer reaches. "How many ships are they sending?" he asked. "Current count is 640 warships," his tactical officer replied. "They're setting up a blockade." "Perfect. When they're all in position, I want our fleet to decloak around them." "Sir, that will reveal everything we've been hiding." "That's the point," Kyle said. "The Council thinks we're weak because we chose peace. Time to teach them the difference between won't and can't." He looked at the countdown timer on his screen. 44 hours until the deadline. The Council had time to make the right choice. But Kyle knew they wouldn't. They would see humanity's warning as a bluff. They would dig in, confident in their numbers and their technological superiority. They were about to learn that humanity had been holding back all along. Not because they were weak, not because they were afraid, but because they believed in giving peace a chance. That chance had just expired. Kyle activated the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Davis. Prepare for Operation Thunderstrike. We're going to get our people back." Council Prime Vexthor stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, trying to maintain his composure. The human warning had been delivered 30 hours ago. 42 hours remained on their ridiculous deadline. "The humans threaten us with consequences," he said, his voice steady. "They demand we release their people and withdraw from territories we now rightfully control. This is desperation, nothing more." War Minister Krell stood beside him, his massive frame radiating confidence. "We have examined the incident at the 3 military bases. It was sophisticated, yes, but nothing that suggests a real threat. The humans likely used some computer virus, planted during their time in Council space. Our systems are now protected." "Are you certain?" asked the Varani representative, one of the 3 species that had voted against humanity's expulsion. She was small and covered in soft blue fur, her large eyes showing concern. "The humans disabled 3 separate installations simultaneously. That suggests considerable capability." It suggests good timing and previously planted malware, Krell replied dismissively. Nothing more. The humans have never shown aggressive tendencies. Their entire history with us has been one of peace and cooperation. They share freely. They compromise easily. They avoid conflict. These are not the traits of a warrior species. Vexthor nodded. Precisely. The humans are bluffing. They hope to intimidate us into releasing valuable hostages and relinquishing strategic territory. We will not be moved by empty threats. What of their fleet? Asked another representative. Surely they will attempt a rescue. Let them try, Krell said with something like satisfaction. We have 640 warships positioned around their home system. Their entire military force consists of perhaps 80 vessels, and most of those are exploratory craft. If they attempt to leave Earth, we will destroy them. The council chamber filled with murmurs of agreement. Most species seemed satisfied with this assessment. Only the Varani, Sulkai, and Torth representatives remained quiet, their expressions troubled. I move that we maintain our current position, Vexthor announced. We will not respond to human demands. We will hold their people until Earth agrees to our terms. Full access to their technology, their resources, and their industrial capacity. They will become a client state of the Council, or they will be isolated from galactic civilization. The vote passed overwhelmingly. 845 in favor, 5 against. The Varani, Sulkai, and Torth had been joined by 2 other species who seemed uncertain about the situation. Vexthor dismissed the session and retired to his private chambers. He poured himself a drink from his personal collection, a rare vintage from his homeworld. The humans had been a useful resource, but they had outlived that usefulness. Now they would learn their place in the galactic order. His communication panel chirped. Krell appeared on the screen. The human deadline has been ignored as expected, Krell said. Our fleet reports no unusual activity from Earth. Their ships remain in dock. Good. They recognize the futility of resistance. There is one thing, Prime. Our long-range sensors have detected some unusual readings near the outer system. Nothing clear. Just ghost images that appear and disappear. Sensor malfunctions? Possibly. Or stealth vessels. But if the humans had stealth technology, they would have used it during their time with us. Investigate it, but I doubt it's anything significant. The humans have shown us everything they have. There were no secrets in their ships or their outposts. Krell nodded and ended the transmission. Vexthor finished his drink and reviewed the reports from Council territory. Human prisoners were being processed efficiently. Their technology was being cataloged and copied. Within a month, the Council would have everything they needed from humanity without giving anything in return. It was, he reflected, a perfect outcome. The thought had barely formed when his communication panel exploded with alerts. Captain Nicole Grant stood in the maintenance tunnel beneath Council Base Theta, checking her equipment one last time. Her team was spread across the facility, positioned at critical junctures. They had been living here for 8 years, disguised as maintenance workers, slowly mapping every system. All teams report ready, her second-in-command whispered through the comm. Stand by, Nicole replied. She watched the chronometer on her wrist. The deadline was still hours away, but Admiral Davis had been clear. Before the countdown ended, the Council needed another reminder. Something more pointed than shutting down bases for 60 seconds. The chronometer hit 0. Nicole activated the sequence. Across 12 Council worlds and 4 military installations, her teams moved simultaneously. They didn't destroy anything. They didn't harm anyone. But for the next 5 minutes, every screen in every Council facility displayed the same message. You were warned. Release the hostages. 36 hours remaining. Then the screens went back to normal, as if nothing had happened. Nicole and her teams vanished back into the infrastructure, ghosts in the machine. The panic spread through the Council faster than light-speed communications. Vexthor stared at his screen. watching security footage from multiple locations. The humans had infiltrated everything, not just military bases, but civilian centers, government buildings, even the council headquarters itself. "How is this possible?" he demanded when Krell appeared on his screen. "You said their outposts contained nothing threatening." "They didn't," Krell insisted, but his confidence was cracking. "We searched everything. There were no weapons, no military installations, nothing that suggested—" "They've been here for years," Vex Thor interrupted. "Living among us, waiting. How many?" "We don't know. Our security forces are conducting sweeps now, but the humans could be anywhere. They've had years to prepare hiding places, to build false identities." Vex Thor felt a cold understanding settling over him. The humans hadn't shared everything. They had smiled and cooperated and handed over medical technology while secretly planting agents across council space. For years. Planning for this exact scenario. "Pull our forces back to defensive positions," he ordered. "Increase security at all facilities. Find these human agents." "Prime, if we pull back, it will look like we're afraid." "We should be afraid," Vex Thor snapped. "The humans have been inside our defenses for years, and we never knew. What else don't we know?" His question was answered 6 hours later, when the council fleet surrounding Earth suddenly lost power to their weapons systems. One ship at a time, in a sequence that was clearly deliberate, 640 warships went dark. Not completely. Life support remained. Communications worked. Engines functioned. But every weapons system shut down. The ships drifted in space, helpless. Then something appeared on their sensors. Ships, hundreds of them. They hadn't been there a moment before, but suddenly, space was full of human vessels. Not the exploration craft the Council had seen. These were warships, sleek, dangerous, and completely unknown. Admiral Kyle Davis's face appeared on every screen in every Council ship simultaneously. "You ignored our warning," he said calmly. "You assumed humanity was weak because we chose peace. You believed we had nothing to hide because we shared freely. Both assumptions were incorrect." The image changed, showing tactical data. The human ships surrounding the Council fleet were equipped with weapons technology the Council had never seen. Quantum disruptors, gravity manipulation, energy systems that made Council weapons look primitive. "We could destroy your entire fleet in minutes," Kyle continued. "We won't, because unlike you, we don't see every problem as an excuse for violence. But make no mistake, we can, and we will, if you force us to." The image changed again, showing the interior of Council military bases. Human agents visible in the footage, moving through secure areas, accessing classified systems. Proof that humanity had the ability to strike anywhere, anytime. "You have 36 hours to comply with our original demands," Kyle said. "Release all human prisoners. Withdraw from all former human territories. Return all stolen technology and materials. If you comply, we will allow your fleet to return home safely. Your weapons will be restored once you're clear of human space. If you refuse, we will take our people by force. Your bases will be occupied. Your fleets will be destroyed. Your governments will face human special forces who have been living among you for nearly a decade. You will not enjoy the outcome." The image shifted one final time, showing 3 specific ships in the Council fleet. These belonged to the Varani, Sulkai, and Torth, the species that had voted against humanity's expulsion. "The species that stood with us are free to leave now," Kyle said. "Your weapons will be restored immediately, and you have safe passage through human space. We remember our friends." The transmission ended. The 3 ships found their weapons systems coming back online. They didn't hesitate. They broke formation and headed for the edge of the system, transmitting thanks as they went. The rest of the fleet remained helpless, surrounded by ships they hadn't known existed. In his chambers, Vex Thor stared at the reports flooding in. Every assumption he had made about humanity was wrong. They weren't weak. They weren't naive. They weren't trusting. They had been patient. There was a difference. "What do we do?" Krell asked, his voice small. Vexthor looked at the countdown. 36 hours. Then the humans would stop being patient. "Call an emergency session," he said quietly. "We need to discuss our options." But he already knew the truth. They had no options. The humans held all the cards. They always had. The Council had betrayed humanity, expecting no consequences. They were about to learn what consequences looked like. Admiral Kyle Davis stood on the bridge of the EDF Resolution, watching the Council fleet drift helplessly before him. 640 warships, the pride of the Galactic Council's military might, disabled with the push of a button. Their weapons were offline, their targeting systems dead, their missiles unable to launch. His fleet surrounded them. 200 ships that the Council had never known existed. Ships built in secret facilities on the dark side of Earth's moon, in hidden asteroid bases, in orbital construction yards disguised as research stations. For 12 years, humanity had been preparing for this exact moment, hoping it would never come. "Sir, we're receiving multiple transmissions from Council vessels," his communications officer reported. "They want to negotiate. Tell them to contact their leadership. We have nothing to discuss with individual ships." Captain Brandon Wells appeared on a secondary screen. His ship, the Valiant, was no longer surrounded by enemy vessels. Kyle's fleet had formed a protective barrier around the human ships that had been trapped. "It's good to see you, Admiral," Brandon said, relief clear in his voice. "Good to see you too, Captain. Status report?" "All human vessels accounted for. No casualties. The Council boarding parties were still trying to bypass our locks when your fleet appeared. They withdrew pretty quickly after that." "I imagine they did. Stand by, Captain. We're not done here yet." Kyle switched channels. "Dr. Parker, are you ready?" Emma appeared on screen from the command center on Earth. Behind her, Kyle could see rows of technicians monitoring systems. "Ready, Admiral. We have complete access to their networks. Every Council ship, every military base, every government facility. We've been inside their systems for 8 years, and they never noticed." "Show them everything." Emma nodded and began the transmission. Kyle watched as it broadcast to every ship, every station, every inhabited world in Council space. It was time for the Galactic Council to understand exactly what they had done. The transmission showed Earth's development over the past 15 years. When humanity made first contact, they had made a choice. Show the aliens a peaceful face. Share medical technology, agricultural advances, manufacturing techniques. Build trust and cooperation. But in secret, they had built weapons. Better weapons than anything the Council possessed. The footage showed construction facilities the Council had never seen. Research laboratories developing quantum disruptors that could tear apart matter at the atomic level. Gravity manipulation systems that could crush ships like empty cans. Artificial intelligence networks that could hack any Council system in seconds. "You thought we were primitive," Kyle's voice narrated over the images. "You thought we had nothing to hide because we shared everything, but we were never naive. We understood that not every species shares humanity's values. We hoped for the best and prepared for the worst." The transmission shifted to show the human agents embedded in Council space, men and women who had volunteered to live undercover for years, learning alien languages, adopting alien customs, all while mapping Council defenses and infrastructure. "We placed our people among you 8 years ago," Kyle continued. "Not because we planned to attack, but because we believed in insurance. They lived normal lives, worked normal jobs, raised families. They were accountants and teachers and engineers, and they waited, hoping they would never be needed." The images showed Nicole Grant and her teams, decades of training visible in how they moved. Special Forces soldiers who could infiltrate anywhere, disable anything, and disappear without a trace. "You took our trust and turned it into a weapon against us," Kyle said, his voice hardening. "You detained our people, threatened our home, and laughed at our warnings. You assumed mercy was weakness. You were wrong." The tactical data appeared next. Detailed analysis showing that humanity could have destroyed the Council's entire military infrastructure within hours. Every ship disabled, every base rendered inoperable, every defense grid offline. "We are showing you this not to threaten you, but to help you understand the choice you made," Kyle said. "Humanity chose peace not because we feared conflict, but because we valued life. We shared our technology not because we were naive, but because we believed in cooperation. We offered friendship not because we needed you, but because we hoped for something better than endless competition and suspicion." Commander Jack Morrison appeared on the screen next, standing in the council chamber during the vote. The footage showed Vex Thor's smug expression, Krell's dismissive words, the overwhelming vote to expel humanity. "You betrayed the only species that came to you offering genuine partnership," Kyle said. "You exploited our trust, imprisoned our people, and celebrated your victory. Now you face the consequences." The transmission showed a countdown. 24 hours remaining. "You have 1 day to comply with our demands," Kyle stated. "Release all human prisoners. Withdraw from all territories that were designated as human space. Return all confiscated materials and technology. Pay reparations to the families of detained personnel for their suffering." The image changed to show 3 specific species: the Varani, Sulkai, and Torth representatives who had voted against humanity's expulsion. "These 3 species stood with us when it cost them politically to do so," Kyle said. "They are exempt from these demands and are welcome to maintain diplomatic relations with humanity. They have shown that honor and principle still exist in galactic politics." The transmission ended with one final image. Earth, seen from space, beautiful and blue and very much intact. "We could have destroyed your fleet," Kyle said quietly. "We could have invaded your worlds. We could have done to you what you planned to do to us. We choose not to because that's not who we are. But do not mistake mercy for weakness again. You have 24 hours. Use them wisely." The transmission ended. Silence filled the Council fleet. On the Council's home world, Vex Thor watched the broadcast in his chamber. Every assumption he had made lay shattered around him. The humans hadn't been weak. They had been restrained. They hadn't been naive. They had been hopeful. They hadn't been unprepared. They had been patient. War Minister Krell entered the room, his face showing something Vex Thor had never seen before. Fear. "The Council is in chaos," Krell said. "Half the member species are demanding we comply immediately. The other half want to know why we provoked a species that could destroy us. What are our military options? None. The humans have complete control of our systems. They could shut down every ship, every base, every defense platform. Our scientists estimate they've been inside our networks for years. Everything we have, they can access." Vex Thor sat down heavily. "How did we miss this?" "We saw what we expected to see," Krell admitted. "Peaceful explorers eager to join galactic civilization. We never looked deeper because they gave us no reason to suspect anything else. They played us." "No," Krell said slowly. "They hoped we would be better than we are. They gave us a chance to prove that cooperation could work. We failed the test." Ambassador Lisa Hayes appeared on the communication screen, her expression neutral. "Council Prime Vex Thor," she said formally. "Admiral Davis has authorized me to clarify the terms of compliance. I'm listening. All human prisoners will be released unharmed and transported to designated collection points. You will provide medical care for any who require it and compensate them for their detention. All human territories in Council space will be evacuated within the 24-hour window. All confiscated technology, research, and materials will be returned intact. You will pay reparations totaling 5 million council credits to each detained individual. Vexthor felt his skin shimmer with stress. 5 million per person? That's 40 billion credits total. Yes, consider it the cost of betrayal. You wanted our technology without paying for it. Now you pay far more for nothing. And if we refuse? Lisa's expression didn't change. Then Admiral Davis will take what he came for by force. Your fleet will be destroyed. Your bases will be occupied by human forces. Your governments will be destabilized by the agents we have embedded in your infrastructure. And humanity will withdraw completely from galactic civilization, taking with it any hope of future cooperation. You would isolate yourselves? You already isolated us, Lisa replied. We're simply accepting the reality you created. The Council made it clear that humanity is not welcome as an equal partner. We can accept that. Can you accept the consequences? Vexthor looked at Krell, who nodded slowly. They had no choice. We will comply, Vexthor said quietly. Wise decision. You have 24 hours. The countdown has begun. The transmission ended. Vexthor activated the Council-wide emergency channel. All forces, begin immediate evacuation of human territories. All detention facilities, release human prisoners at once. Full compliance with human demands. Around him, his government crumbled. Species were already withdrawing from the Council, questioning the leadership that had led them to this disaster. The carefully built alliance of 850 worlds was fracturing. In space, Admiral Davis watched the Council vessels beginning to retreat. Their weapons came back online as they cleared human space, one ship at a time. He had kept his word. Comply, and they would be allowed to leave safely. Sir, the Varani ambassador is requesting permission to speak with you, his communications officer said. The small, blue-furred alien appeared on screen, her large eyes wet. Admiral Davis, on behalf of the Varani people, I want to apologize for what the Council did. We voted against it, but we should have done more to stop it. You did what you could, Kyle said. That's all anyone can ask. Will humanity ever trust us again? Kyle considered that. Trust is earned. You stood with us when it mattered. That's a good start. Contact Ambassador Hayes. We'll begin diplomatic talks. The Varani bowed and ended the transmission. 2 more requests came in immediately. The Sulkai and Torth wanted to open dialogue. Kyle approved both. At least some good would come from this disaster. 3 species had shown integrity. That was worth remembering. Admiral, Council forces are withdrawing ahead of schedule, his tactical officer reported. They're moving fast. Let them go. We got what we came for. Kyle watched the countdown. 18 hours remaining, but it was already over. The Council had learned its lesson. He just hoped they would remember it. The last human prisoner stepped off the transport ship 18 hours after Vexthor's surrender. Ambassador Lisa Hayes watched from the observation deck as the evacuation proceeded smoothly. 8,000 people, scientists and diplomats and families, all coming home. Dr. Emma Parker stood beside her, tablet in hand, checking names against the manifest. Everyone accounted for, Emma said quietly. No casualties, though medical reports show some were rougher than others during detention. Document everything, Lisa replied. The Council paid reparations, but we'll remember how they treated our people. Commander Jack Morrison joined them, looking tired but satisfied. He had spent the past day coordinating with Council officials, ensuring the withdrawal went according to plan. Every outpost evacuated, every piece of confiscated equipment returned. The Council had moved with desperate speed, terrified of what humanity might do if they delayed. The last Council ship left human space an hour ago, Jack said. Admiral Davis is maintaining the blockade for another 48 hours, just to make sure they don't try anything clever. Do you think they will? Emma asked. No, they're too busy dealing with their own problems. He was right. Reports from Council Space showed chaos spreading through their government. Vexthor had been removed from power by emergency vote, replaced by a coalition of species demanding accountability. War Minister Krell had resigned in disgrace. The Council itself was fragmenting as member species questioned why they had followed leadership that brought them to the edge of disaster. The Varani ambassador wants to meet tomorrow, Lisa said. The Solkai and Torth have also requested formal talks. They want to establish independent diplomatic relations with humanity. What about the rest of the Council? Radio silence. I don't think they know what to say. Jack looked out at the returning ships. We gave them 10 years of cooperation. We shared everything we could, and they threw it away because they saw us as tools instead of partners. That's galactic politics, Lisa said with a sad smile. We hoped for better. We prepared for worse. Turns out we needed both. 3 months later, Earth's government convened a special session to discuss humanity's future in galactic civilization. Ambassador Hayes stood before the assembled leaders, presenting her recommendations. The Council has complied with all demands, she began. All prisoners returned, all territories evacuated, reparations paid in full. They've made no further contact beyond formal acknowledgement of their withdrawal. What's their current status? The President asked. Fractured. 47 species have withdrawn from the Council completely. Another 112 are threatening to leave unless reforms are implemented. The Varani, Sulkai, and Torth have proposed forming a new alliance, one based on mutual respect rather than exploitation. And they want us to join? Yes. They're calling it the Coalition of Independent Worlds. Each member maintains full sovereignty. Decisions require unanimous consent. Technology sharing is voluntary, not mandatory. It's essentially everything the old Council wasn't. The President considered this. Your recommendation? Join them. Not because we need allies, but because those 3 species proved they have integrity. They stood with us when it cost them. That matters. What about the rest of the galaxy? Lisa pulled up a star map showing known space. Large sections were marked in red. These are former Council territories descending into chaos. Some species are forming their own alliances, others are attempting to claim abandoned space. There's even been some armed conflict between former members. Because we destroyed their power structure, one of the counselors noted. Because they built their power structure on exploitation and betrayal, Lisa corrected. It was always going to collapse. We just accelerated the timeline. Admiral Kyle Davis entered the chamber, still in uniform. He had been recalled from the fleet to give his assessment. From a military perspective, humanity is secure, he reported. Our forces are stronger than any potential threat in known space. The technology we kept hidden gives us a significant advantage. However, isolation comes with costs. We lose access to alien science, cultural exchange, and potential future cooperation. You think we should engage with the galaxy? Selectively. The Coalition of Independent Worlds is a good start. 3 species that prove trustworthy. We build from there. But we never forget the lesson. Trust is earned, not given freely. And we keep our weapons ready. The vote was held. Humanity would join the Coalition of Independent Worlds while maintaining defensive readiness. Dr. Parker's weapons programs would continue. Admiral Davis's fleet would remain at full strength. Captain Grant's special operations teams would stay embedded in strategic locations across known space, though now with the full knowledge and consent of Coalition partners. 6 months after the betrayal, the Coalition held its first official summit on a neutral space station. Ambassador Lisa Hayes represented humanity, along with Commander Jack Morrison and 3 scientists who would coordinate technology sharing under the new agreements. The Varani ambassador approached Lisa first, her blue fur shimmering with emotion. "Thank you for giving us another chance," she said softly. You earned it, Lisa replied. You stood with us when it mattered. The old council is demanding we return. They're threatening economic sanctions if we maintain ties with humanity. What will you do? The Varani smiled, showing small teeth. Tell them to go to hell, I believe is the human expression. We've seen what the council's leadership brings. We prefer your company. The summit proceeded smoothly. The four species established trade agreements, scientific exchange programs, and mutual defense pacts. It was everything humanity had hoped the Galactic Council would be. Meanwhile, the old council struggled. Vex Thor's replacement sent multiple messages requesting dialogue with humanity. All went unanswered. The council had made their choice. Now they lived with it. 8 months after the betrayal, something unexpected happened. The Kresh, the species the council had invented as a fake threat, turned out to be real, and they weren't interested in peaceful contact. A Kresh fleet appeared at the edge of council space, demanding submission. The weakened council, still recovering from humanity's demonstration of power and the subsequent political chaos, found themselves facing a genuine military threat. Within days, the council sent an emergency message to Earth. They needed help. The Kresh were destroying their border worlds. Without humanity's advanced weapons, the council couldn't mount an effective defense. Admiral Davis brought the message to the president. They're begging for help, he said, offering full alliance, technology sharing, even proposing that humanity take a leadership role in council military operations. After everything they did, they're desperate. The Kresh are winning. The president looked at Lisa. Your thoughts? Let them burn, Lisa said coldly. They betrayed us, imprisoned our people, and laughed at our suffering. Now they want us to save them? Why would we risk human lives for species that see us as tools? Because people are dying, Jack said quietly. Civilians, children, species that had nothing to do with the council's decision. Jack, they voted 847-3 to expel us. I know, but we're not them. We don't punish the innocent for their government's mistakes. The room fell silent. Finally, the president spoke. We don't respond to the council, but Ambassador Hayes, contact the coalition. Propose a joint response to the Kresh threat. If the Varani, Sulkai, and Torth agree to help, we'll support them. We protect our allies, not our betrayers. The coalition responded within hours. All three species agreed. Not because they wanted to save the council, but because they wouldn't stand by while civilians died. The coalition fleet, led by human ships, deployed to the conflict zone. They didn't coordinate with council forces. They didn't take council orders. They simply placed themselves between the Kresh and the civilian populations, establishing a defensive perimeter. The Kresh learned quickly that the coalition was different from the council. Their first attack on a coalition position ended with half their fleet disabled in minutes. The second attack never came. The Kresh retreated, unwilling to face opponents who actually knew how to fight. The council worlds were saved, not by the council, but by the four species they had dismissed or betrayed. A year after the betrayal, Commander Jack Morrison stood on the observation deck of a coalition station, looking out at the stars. The galaxy had changed. The old council still existed, but with diminished power and influence. The coalition was growing, new species requesting membership every month. Lisa joined him at the window. Thinking about what could have been, she asked. Sometimes. If the council had been genuine, we could have built something amazing. 10 years of real cooperation, imagine what we could have achieved. Instead, we got this. A fractured galaxy, political chaos, and humanity standing alone with 3 allies. It's not nothing, Jack said. The Varani, Sulkai, and Torth are good people, real partners. Maybe this is better than what we had before. Maybe. But it still hurts knowing that we tried so hard and they threw it away. They did. But we survived. We adapted. We're stronger now. Lisa nodded slowly. We are. But at what cost? We can never be that optimistic again. We'll never offer complete trust to new species. We'll always be watching for betrayal. Is that wrong? No, just sad. They stood in silence, watching coalition ships move past the station. Human vessels flew alongside Varani science craft, Sulkai cargo haulers, and Torth defensive frigates. It wasn't what they had dreamed of, but it was real. Captain Nicole Grant entered the observation deck, carrying a datapad. Ambassador, Admiral Davis wants your approval on the new protocols. Any new species requesting coalition membership has to pass a year-long observation period. We'll embed agents, monitor their interactions, verify they're genuine before admitting them. Approved, Lisa said. We learned that lesson the hard way. Nicole left. Jack turned back to the stars. Do you think we'll ever trust again? Really trust the way we did with the Council? Lisa considered the question carefully. Maybe, but it will take time, decades probably, and it will require species that prove themselves over and over. Trust isn't given anymore, it's earned. That's the real cost of the betrayal, Jack said. Not the political chaos or the military posturing. The Council killed humanity's optimism. We came to the stars hoping for friendship, and we got exploitation. That changes something fundamental. It does. But we're still here, still trying, just more carefully. Is that enough? It has to be. Far across the galaxy, in the fractured remains of the old Council, species watched the coalition grow and wondered what they had lost. They had wanted humanity's technology without partnership. Now they had neither. The lesson was clear. Humanity had offered cooperation. The Council chose betrayal. And in the end, humanity proved that mercy was not weakness, but a choice. A choice that could be revoked. The galaxy would remember, and maybe someday they would be worthy of humanity's trust again. But not today.